Guys, it's Christina of CraftyPaws. Yes, I know we haven't even finished with summer yet, but before you know it, Halloween will be upon us. And I really wanted to support my friend Shan, who's Art Junkie here on YouTube, and she currently has a Halloween challenge going on. So I thought it would be a perfect time for me to get out my old Halloween dies from Diamond Dies and do a design team project. It's basically silhouetted over top of a background that I created using my distress inks. I just had fun mixing different colors to create this kind of nighttime sky with the sun setting in the background. So for Diamond Dies, I used the spooky tree. I also used a spooky tree that I had from CC Designs. It's much less intricate, but I thought it could fill in a little bit more into the card, although I think the card would have done fine even without it, but I had it, so I figured I'd use it. I also used the bats die set, and I used just the medium and the small. And so I have these looking like they're flying away, and this one being the closest. I use the tombstone die set, and I use both of them, although you can only see one here. I use the blank behind the one that says rest in peace. And I did that so that I could use my Jelly Roll pen to create some shimmer on the RIP there. I hand fussy cut out just this little cross for the cemetery scene. I also used the Diamond Dies grass die set to create some texture in here. Maybe you can see it a little bit. I wanted it to be as realistic as possible, even though it's silhouetted. And so I have layers and layers of this grass in there. And for this Halloween fencing, which I just love, it has little bats on it. That is actually a Martha Stewart punch. If you guys are going to be making a purchase at Diamond Dies, please consider using the code Thanks Christina to get 10% off and free worldwide shipping on all orders of $35 or more. I'm going to attach a process video, but before I do, I also wanted to share real quick a ATC that I made for Shan. This is inspired by a quote from the Dalai Lama. When educating the minds of our youth, we must not forget to educate their hearts. And I thought that went perfectly with this Lizzie Love designed oddball art digi-stamp. And I think she is so stinking cute. She actually has a braid here, but I cut that off so that she would look more like Shan herself. And I thought she could be like a little witch in training. So this is kind of Halloween / back to school. And she is, she has here little bottles from her chemistry class or her witchcraft class. And I just drew these out using a Copic multi-liner pen. Fussy cut those out. And this is supposed to be Love Potion number 9. Because this image actually has this little heart that she's also dangling from her hand there. It's a heart with crossbones. And just for dimension, you can see here, I popped each of these little bottles up on foam adhesive, and I put glossy accents over all of them, as well as on her eyes. And I don't know, I thought everything went together so well with this quote and Halloween. I will list all the Copic colors that I used to color her up in my blog post. I hope you like the process video that follows next. I used a circle die and some leftover packaging because I wanted the stencil that I created to be sturdy enough, and I'm just taking my distress tool and inking in the moon. Sprinkling on plain water actually bleaches out some of the ink, so it creates kind of that cratered look of the moon. I'm using the positive of the die to mask over that moon so I can blend in the background using various distress inks. I'm going to list all the colors that I used on my blog post, which I'll link to in the description box below. Just take your time going back and forth, working the colors that you want. I wanted this to be a kind of dusk scene, so I wanted where the sun was setting to have a golden yellowy hue, and that transitioning into kind of more blues, purples, the darker colors toward the top of the card. So you'll see me working back and forth. I will say I'm also using watercolor paper because the tooth on that paper picks up the distress inks really well. I will also say I learned a little something here. When I'm blending, if I have too strong of a touch when I'm blending, it actually removes the ink as it's putting it on. So I would recommend kind of blending but lightly, and the ink will absorb much better into the paper rather than stripping it as you're applying as well. I hope that makes sense. Anyway, the background comes out really nice and rich if you just work the colors back and forth. Here's how you use Martha Stewart border punches. What you need to do is to make sure you line up the picture of what you've already punched with this diagram here before you do the next punch. And if you do, then everything should line up so that you get one continuous fence. Fabulous, I love that. Now I'm just assembling all the other die cut pieces. There's this spooky tree from CC Designs. Here's the beautiful spooky tree from Diemond Dies. And I'm using Aileen's original tacky glue, just a wet glue, because it gives me a little time to position things around. And there I'm just mopping up a little bit of excess glue that has seeped out from the sides. I hand cut out that cross, and here's the Rest in Peace tombstone from Diemond Dies. Then I glued in the bats, the largest one most forward, so I put that lower down on the card, and then the two smaller ones kind of flying away and more in the distance, so they're smaller and up higher. Oh, and here I am trying to position the fence without obstructing the Rest in Peace, the RIP on that tombstone. So that's why I actually lifted it up, which is one of the great things about wet glue, and I'm lifted it up a little bit higher so that the fence and the RIP don't get in each other's way. And here I'm just layering in little bits of the die cut grass. And all of this, because it's silhouetted, is black, and you might not see it on video, but in person, all these layers I think really make for a rich looking card. Because I didn't want the yellow of the background to show through, I went over it with black soot because I wanted the silhouette area to be really dark. And then I just go through and continue layering on layers of the die cut grass. Now I think I'm pretty much done here with the grass until I notice that there's a little piece area on the right where you don't have the grass kind of softening the ground. So I just tucked in that last little piece there right by the base of the tree. I think it's those kinds of little details that make cards really stand out. Now I'll flip the card over to just cut off the excess there, and I put foam adhesive at the base of this fencing because all the buildup of the layers with that grass ended up pushing the base of that card forward. And I'm using wet glue for the top of the fence, and that seemed to get everything kind of flush. I'm putting double-sided foam adhesive on the back of that card, and all of that is to raise that card off of the card base. I chose a black card base because I think that really helps make the background colors pop. For the inside, I just had a little bit of leftover of that fencing, so I thought I'd put that in, kind of the way people sometimes put banners on the inside of their cards. And I think that adds a nice little finishing touch for the inside. To add a little sparkle and highlights where I thought that the moonlight would be hitting the different objects in the scene, I'm using a clear star jelly roll pen made by Sakura and just hitting the tops and the side toward the moon with just a little bit of that clear star kind of metallic sparkly light. And I think that adds such a nice finishing touch. I hope you've enjoyed this process video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. I really appreciate you guys watching, and I hope you guys are having a wonderful crafty day. Bye!